seated. At this time, we ask that anyone with cellular phones please turn them off. As we are a Catholic school, the first part of our evening begins with Father Brown. I'd like to call Father Thomas Brown up to give the invocation.
Good evening, e boa noite. We're going to start out, as we start out most of our classes, and we hope that most of our days of our life, asking God to be with us. God has been with you here, you students at the chapel, for these many years. And now we ask that God be with you, go with you. Vão com Deus into the future. So I hope that you remember the little card that we gave you the other day, and you might even have it with you tonight. I hope that you keep that with you so that when you start out the day each morning, you say that nothing's going to happen today that God and I cannot handle, including your graduation night. So, God bless you. Since we do have many faiths represented here at the school, I would like to call my colleague and my dear friend, Pastor Dandal, who is of the Fellowship Church here, and we will give this ceremony and we will give this blessing together. It's a blessing from the Old Testament, and we would like at this moment for the parents to stand. Would you parents please stand now? Parents of our graduating class. We would like, as many times in ceremonies, perhaps when you held your baby boy or girl here at baptism, presented them to baptism, and you may be present at their wedding soon, maybe sooner than you realize. But anyways, we ask the parents also to give a blessing, to join us in this blessing, because after all, it is you who brought them into the world, it is you who have cared for them for these many years. And so as my friend Pastor Dandal has his own daughter here, Nina, who has been here for 9 years at chapel, so we thought it was only fitting that we should give this blessing together with you. Parents, would you please extend your right hand as we say this blessing together. The blessing is from the Old Testament. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father Brown and Pastor Dole. The salutatorian is the student who has the second highest grade point average in the graduating class. Juliana Bento Pasquale has been at chapel since the 10th grade. Not only is Juliana a full IB student, but she is also the student council secretary. Juliana is truly an international student, as she has studied in Luxembourg, London, and now Sao Paulo. Juliana will be continuing on in her international studies as she goes on to the United States to study at the University of Virginia. I now call upon the salutatorian, Juliana Bento Pasquale.
Good evening, friends, family, and teachers. The moment of our graduation, for which we have all been waiting, has finally arrived. Graduation, or better yet, a high school diploma, means much more than the knowledge acquired throughout these past 13 years, during which time responsibilities were slowly given to us. In kindergarten, for example, our responsibility varied from maintaining tidy lockers to not forgetting our crayons at home. In 4th or 5th grade, we had the responsibility of leading certain group activities, such as a science fair project. Right now, the scenery has changed, since I have the responsibility, as well as the honor and privilege, of standing up here in front of parents and guests in the attempt to describe exactly what this night means to the class of 2000. After tonight, everything will change. Whether or not we are ready, it is going to happen anyhow. This transition from school to college represents the next phase of our lives, the start of independence, and a time when we may make mistakes, but will hopefully learn from them. We will never be completely prepared to go out into the real world. Fortunately, we are the few lucky ones who have had competent teachers who have primarily taught us our academics, our languages, our math, our sciences, our social studies, and our fine arts. After tonight, we will have to apply our knowledge acquired during these years to real life situations, hopefully learning from every new experience. We are all aware that, unlike high school, in the real world, with whom we were friends or which nightclubs we attended on the weekends will no longer matter. Outside of chapel, we will all realize that cliques or panelinhas were lame, as well as truly insignificant. The clothes we wore and the cars our parents drove will no longer matter to us, since with maturity, we shall all perceive that in essence, we are all the same. We all have the same dreams, we all have the same aspirations, and more importantly, we all have the same fears. Even though we may appear to be different, since we all have different characteristics and backgrounds, we shouldn't be afraid of being ourselves and of expressing our opinions. This class is made up from all different races, customs, and cultures, but more importantly, there will always be a common bond among all of us. Holding an honorable diploma, we, a diverse group, now have the skills, knowledge, and experience to move into the new millennium. I'd like to share with all of you, parents, teachers, and classmates, some lines from perhaps the most influential piece of writing I have read during these 4 dynamic years of high school. It is The Road Not Taken by the American poet Robert Frost, and I'm sure all the seniors, as well as alumni present, have studied this in Mrs. Chermat's unforgettable English class. 2 roads diverged in the yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it had bent in the undergrowth. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhat ages and ages hence. 2 roads diverged in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Frost is expressing what I'm attempting to leave as a message for everyone here tonight. He focuses on 2 main points. The first is destiny, and the second, the choices we must all make. All of us have paths to choose, especially now that we are responsible for our own decisions. Let us not allow our goal to be radically influenced by anyone else. It is the one thing that we can all truly call our own. Usually, our first intuition is the right one. Let us follow our hearts, as many times our feelings enrich our insights. In this graduating class, I am certain that some of us will end up taking the road less traveled by. Let us choose our footsteps wisely, for they will affect our life's journey. We have been faced with the questions: which college shall I attend? In which country shall I live? And what profession shall I follow? These are only few of the paths which we must decide. At times, we will feel that we have made the wrong decision, but we will always have the consolation that our true friends will always be by our sides, cheering us on and making sure we will overcome every obstacle. Let us keep in mind the following quotation. Many people will walk in and out of our lives, but only true friends will leave footprints in our hearts. There are too many valuable memories that we shouldn't let slip away after tonight. I am here representing the class of 2000, preparing for the future, reminiscing about the past, and enjoying the sheer exhilaration of being high school graduates. May our college years be as enjoyable as these years here at Chapel. On behalf of the class of 2000, I would like above all to thank God, for it has been He who has been at work, shaping, molding, and transforming us these past 13 years. Obviously, we must thank our parents, who so often put up with the common temper outbursts for which teenagers are so well known. Our parents who have supported us so far deserve much credit tonight. We also thank our teachers who have influenced us not only academically, but also spiritually, since some things I have learned from some of the authorities here at Chapel go far beyond textbooks, formulas, and rules of grammar. Thank you everyone who has had the patience to bear with us these past 13 years. We all realized that we weren't an easy class to teach. And to the class of 2000, a few last words. Tudo que é bom dura pouco, mas dura o suficiente para tornar-se inesquecível, assim como nossos anos aqui na Chapel. Tonight, I challenge all of you, graduating class, to realize where your opportunities may lie and to pursue them. We can make a substantial difference in our world. I hope that everybody takes advantage of this to reach out to one another, learning, experiencing, and living to the very fullest. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana, for that wonderful message. Each year, the graduating class chooses a special person to give the commencement address. Mrs. Termet has been a teacher for 52 years and at Chapel for 19. Prior to teaching at Chapel, Mrs. Termet taught high school in India, Rio de Janeiro, New York, and graded. During her time, she has balanced the role of mother, wife, and exceptional teacher. Mrs. Termet holds a bachelor's degree from Isabella Thorburn College in India and a master's degree from Columbia University in New York City. As a fellow 12th grade teacher, I have seen the proof of her amazing teaching abilities. Many a time I have suffered rebuke on my spelling and grammar errors from my students. As this is Mrs. Termet's final year at Chapel, it is only fitting to thank her for the legacy she's leaving behind her. Not only has she been a fabulous teacher, but she's also influenced many lives. Mrs. Termet was instrumental in the conception of the Big Four in 1954. I now ask that you welcome Mrs. Termet to the podium.
Father Brown, members of the Board of Directors and Administration, my colleagues, parents, guests, and class of the year 2000. Good evening. First and foremost, I wish to thank the senior class for having invited me to be the speaker at this special occasion. Actually, I am surprised the seniors who have heard me every day during this past scholastic year should wish to hear me once again before each one follows his own path in the near future. When I think in retrospect and remember the hundreds of students I have taught. Who are those who come foremost in my mind? Those who are courteous. Yes, innate courtesy is very important in life, and it is not only for special occasions, but for always. Invariably, I remember those who, coming into my classroom, would greet me with the word, "Good morning," or would leave the same class saying, "Goodbye." On Fridays, would add, "Have a good weekend." Or after an absence, would say, "Welcome back." Whenever you requested a letter of recommendation, often in the last minute, I like to include courteous among the many attributes to describe you to the Dean of Admissions. In a few years, when you apply for a job and have to attend an interview, remember, courtesy is very important. This evening, my message to you is that whichever career you decide to pursue, perseverance, which should lead you to excellence and hopefully to success, is, in my opinion, of utmost importance. Do not be discouraged if the courses or the prerequisite courses that you have to fulfill are not exactly the ones that you expected them to be. Try to do your best and try until you succeed for your own personal enrichment. Whatever you achieve is the net result of a sum of components: professors, assistants, library, laboratory, and constructively competitive classmates, but above all, putting it all together, yourself. Whatever insufficiency you think you detect in one or another of the components, do not complain or neglect. Make up for it by doubling your own effort. The next 4, 5, or 6 years of study will not always be easy. Face them as a challenge. Actually, you will be continuing to study throughout your life, especially today, when methods and technology change rapidly and continually. Actually, always keep up to date in your specific field, because what is true today may not be entirely so tomorrow. If unfortunately you realize you made the wrong decision in reference to your career, have the courage to change. The knowledge you acquire is never lost, but follow your goal. A friend said, choose your love and love your choice. Often, you may be in a dilemma. Ask advice from a friend, a professor, and above all, from your parents. Your duty is to do the best you can in the courses you study. Do not forget, however, to participate in worthwhile extracurricular activities, and, if possible, apply for a part-time job. It always teaches you responsibility and obviously helps financially. You may not know this, however, the great German composer Ludwig van Beethoven wrote several orchestral arrangements for the opening measures of his Fifth Symphony until he decided which arrangement he preferred. He persevered until he reached excellence. May you have that tenacity and patience to persevere and succeed. Soon afterwards, you will be faced with the challenge of applying for serious work. In this world today, when so many are unemployed, be happy when the opportunity for work arises. All knowledge will be useful when it may be applied in one's job. However, as stated by a 20th century philosopher, work is empty, save when there is love. If you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work. So I sincerely hope you will find a job that you will enjoy and thereby enhance your fulfillment. Remember, to do your best or persevere to reach excellence and enjoy inner satisfaction. A year and a half ago, when I went to India, after an absence of 50 years, my family and I visited a holy place in southeast India. What impressed me most was the absolute silence everywhere and the reverent attitude of all the pilgrims and visitors from all over the world. On the way, there were several gateways, and on each there was a proverb, which was quite thought-provoking. I would like to share with you one that I find very true. I quote, "It is always exciting to discover new talent, but the most exciting place is to discover it in yourself." It is necessary to find time in our busy daily life to be quiet and, among many other thoughts, discover the gift in yourself, your special aptitude, miraculously God-given and distinct for each and every one of you. Develop your talent and share with others. Make them happy too. In fact, the more you aim at doing for others, the more you and others will be doing for you. A famous English poet, John Milton, who was blind in his last years, felt discouraged and stated, "And the one talent which is left to hide, lodged in me useless." Fortunately, he continued, writing what later were considered his best poems. Do not let your talent or talents lodge in you useless. With your goal in mind, and again with perseverance, you will succeed. In class, you have often heard me remind you how necessary and significant it is to be honest. Not only with your work and dealings with others, but with yourself, with your own conscience. You heard me quote one of Shakespeare's statements, which I consider a wonderful principle to remember. I quote, "This, above all, thine own self be truth, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man." What an ideal world this would have been if this principle were followed. Think carefully. To thine own self be true. A statement written by a great playwright 400 years ago. Each one of you is an individual and is essentially alone in this world. However, remember, all of you are members of a larger, deeply committed community. At the same time that you develop your talents, do not forget to share with those who are less privileged. You are privileged, since you do have the opportunity to develop your talents. Why not share a little with those who have not had that opportunity? Sharing is a rewarding gift. Before closing, may I read to you these lines the great poet Khalil Gibran wrote addressing parents. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves the bow that is stable. Throughout your life, your parents, your teachers, why not add your good friends, have helped bend the bow with friendly counseling. Where you, the living arrows, go, and which goal you will reach, will depend primarily on you. Your choices, your effort, your perseverance, and your courteous demeanor. My heartiest congratulations on your achievements. May God be with you always.
Thank you, Mrs. Turmet, for your message. As I hope you can see, you'll be sadly missed. To graduate at the top of any class is proof of both character and ability. Diana Angeluso is a daughter of Cecilia and Felipe. She's been a student at Chapel since the 2nd grade. Dan has shown that a truly gifted student does more than just academics. Her list of activities include student government, organizer of the Chapel 2000 fashion show, piano, and art school where she studies fashion design. Please welcome the valedictorian of the Chapel class of 2000, Diana O.
Boa noite. Quando descobri que tinha de elaborar um discurso para minha turma, não sabia exatamente o que dizer. Na realidade, é difícil definir a minha classe, pois somos diferentes em todos os sentidos, tanto em cultura quanto em ideias e atitudes. No entanto, o que há de comum entre nós é a extrema rebeldia. Para alguns, isso pode parecer um defeito, mas foi graças a jovens assim que as grandes utopias foram realizadas. Certamente partirá dessa turma e de outras que virão pessoas capazes de construir um mundo melhor. Não perfeito, mas melhor é bem possível. Há pouco tempo, começamos esta viagem na montanha-russa da vida e já parece que tivemos um passeio bem longo e forte. Alguns irão para a faculdade, outros começarão a trabalhar e a maioria ainda estará indecisa. Mas, seja qual for o caminho escolhido, não será fácil. E acredite em mim, em 1 ano ou 2, vocês estarão desejando voltar para a Chapel. Nossos pais e avós amoldaram nossa geração. Agora é a nossa vez. Eles foram em frente com tremendos obstáculos atrás de paz e prosperidade. E muitos deles foram para a guerra para proteger a liberdade e a nação que eles amaram afetuosamente. Embora nenhuma guerra mundial atrapalhe a nossa liberdade, muitos obstáculos giram ao nosso redor. Paz e liberdade nunca são coisas fáceis de obter e são acompanhados por grande responsabilidade. Mas para cumprir este papel, temos que ter um quadro claro de nós mesmos e das nossas metas. Em nome dos formandos, eu gostaria de agradecer aos pais pelo trabalho árduo que eles tiveram e o apoio que eles nos deram. Vocês, pais, lutaram conosco até mesmo quando todas as direções apontavam contra nós. Um grande abraço aos professores e aos funcionários da Chapel pela sabedoria e dedicação. Também eu gostaria de agradecer a Deus, porque Ele nos deu força e coragem para ter sucesso acadêmico e espiritual. Cada um de vocês, sentado neste palco, merece os maiores parabéns. Não só por esta realização, mas também por chegar aqui com dignidade. Hoje nós deixamos a Chapel, mas não olhe para isso como o final de uma jornada. Olhe como o começo do resto de nossas vidas. Assim, deem uma olhada neste grupo surpreendente de pessoas antes de nos separarmos. E formandos, sintam-se tão honrados quanto eu me sinto de ter podido ser parte de algo tão importante. Pois não importa o que o amanhã trará, seja um caminho mais simples ou uma estrada tortuosa, hoje à noite compartilhamos uma realização. Sempre leve com vocês as recordações, o conhecimento e a certeza de um trabalho bem feito. Deste momento em diante, classe do ano 2000, may the force be with you. Muito obrigada.
In many ways and for many reasons, Chapel is a magical place. From a teacher's perspective, one of the best attributes of the school is that we have students that range in age from 3 up until the age of 18. Within this group on stage, there are 11 students who have been at Chapel since kindergarten. I would now like to acknowledge the veterans of the class of 2000. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until I've called everyone. Christina Hosforowski da Costa. Karuna Daswani. Deborah Lopez. Thomas Law. Olivia Lewandowski. Priscilla Nasrallah. Carolina Niemeyer. Cecilia Pimentel. Marcin Pinto. Eduardo Galvão Teixeira. Ricardo Voss. our Children of Chapel alumni. I'd like to introduce to you two of the children. Christina Hospodovsky da Costa and Diego Higgins. You may now be seated. You'll notice that some of the graduates have blue stoles on their robes. These blue stoles indicate the acceptance to the National Honor Society. These students have excelled in the areas of scholarship, character, leadership, and service. Once again, as I call the names of National Honor Society members, I ask that they stand and remain standing until I've called all nine. Yoda Chen. Christina Hospodovsky da Costa. Sylvia Loman. Selena Liu. Diana Angeliso. Juliana Bento Pasquale. Raquel Silva. Stephanie Lupini. And Cecilio Pimentel. You may now be seated. Within this group, there are two students who have chosen to pursue the IB diploma. As one of the teachers within the International Baccalaureate program, I know what a task it is. I admire and respect these two girls. I'd like to introduce to you Diana O. and Juliana Bento Pasquale. We have two special guests in the audience this evening. Both of these students studied chapel with the class of 2000 and left at the end of their junior year. Carmen Miller Prados is joining us in Puerto Rico, and Matthias Vasquez made the journey from Barcelona, Spain. Carmen and Matthias, please stand so we may recognize you now. A difficult task lay before us this evening. The task of saying goodbye to a wonderful teacher. Two alumni are here tonight to share a special message of farewell to Mrs. Turment. I first would like to call upon Fernando Loman from the class of 1995.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, parents. Good evening, Ms. Hermit. First of all, I'd like to tell Ms. Hermit that it's an honor to be chosen to be making this speech tonight. It was an honor to be in her class my senior year. I hadn't had her as a teacher before my senior year, and I was really glad the school chose me tonight to make one of the speeches. And I also must add that it took me about half an hour to write the speech and about a week to go over grammar rules to make sure I hadn't made any mistakes. So here we go. It was close to Christmas of my junior year here, and the school that day was once again flooded by a college freshman who not too long before had graduated from chapel and had now returned to share their stories and feed their nostalgia. I ran into his old friend who was talking to Mrs. Turman in the hall. And as he saw me, he said, If you still haven't written a term paper for Miss Terman, make sure you do it before graduation. It might save your life in college one day. Honestly, I didn't even know what made a term paper different from a regular paper. But it was then I first realized the long-lasting effect Miss Terman could have on her students. It was the first of many occasions in the last 6 years when I realized that the knowledge gained in Mrs. Terman's class my senior year went far beyond Shakespeare, Byron, and Keats. It stretches the memories and moments that I, and surely most of the students graduating today, will be passing on to our kids and grandkids. Did you know that the correct way of saying, Mrs. Terman, it is so sad to see you leave, would be, Miss Terman, it is so sad to see your leaving. You did? Well, as I found out, neither did 98% of my friends in college in the U.S., whose native language, by the way, was English. Brazilian students who can teach English grammar rules to American friends is just one of the many Terman achievements that will often come back to our lives and enlighten us on proper and positive ways of achieving things in life. Surely the English language was the centerfold of her British literature class. But who can forget the moments of surprise in class when out of nowhere, Miss Terman's knowledge would suddenly expand to areas such as history, politics, Portuguese, or even German. How colorful would people have been without the background she gave us on Celtic history? How insightful would the romantic poets have been had Miss Terman not introduced the subject with a description of the many revolutionary movements that back then were shaking up the European continent. We can all remember situations where teachers were upset at our speaking Portuguese in classes where English should have been the prevailing language. These situations were slightly different in Mrs. Terman's class. Rather than reprimanding us for speaking Portuguese, she would reprimand us for speaking Portuguese incorrectly. Yes, to me and many of these students graduating today, Mrs. Terman, you will always be that one person in our lives who can make both Shakespeare and Machado de Assis proud of the languages they chose to honor. Why would we never forget all this? Yes, Miss Terman, you were a strict teacher, although you were never a policeman. But your being strict was accompanied by such blatant love for your students and for the knowledge you were trying to pass to us, that it is no wonder that both that knowledge and the love with which you transmitted it will always be stamped on our souls. If we think about it, the history of each of us at Chapel is chronologically limited by how long our contributions to this school are remembered by those who stay. For us students, we realize that a few years after graduation, but a handful of teachers remind us that we were once a part of this special place. You, Mrs. Terman, on the other hand, is now joining the rank of a handful of people who will always be as much a cornerstone of this place's history as its founding date in 1947. So of all of you, I ask, next time you think of everything you learned with Miss Terman, don't ask if you can go to the bathroom. We all know you can, but may you?
Thank you, Fernando. Many of the guests here tonight have traveled great distances to witness the graduation, but only one has traveled through time. As we heard earlier this evening from Mrs. Termat, she loves William Shakespeare. She'll be happy to know that he sent someone to see her this evening. I'd like to ask Juliet Capulet to please come up on stage now.
So here I am. Hi, Mrs. Terman. Look, it's me again.
Actually, no. It is I again. I know. After a linking verb, predicate nominative. Anyway, Mrs. Terman, it's been 12 years or so since I was on this exact same stage making a speech at my graduation way back in the 80s. I'm sure you'll never forget the 80s. That's when you first started here at Chapel. Most of us up here on the stage, and many of you down there, were lucky to have learned from a person who showed us the magical power of words, be it in grammar or in literature. Doubt thou the stars are fire, doubt that the sun doth move, doubt truth to be a liar, but never doubt her love for her students. Poetic license there. Actually, the truth is that Mrs. Terman had so much love for her students that she actually refused to teach them. No, she didn't want mere students in her class. She wanted true scholars. Words one never forgets. I often wonder how on earth I made it through IB English higher level, but I do know why. Because this woman isn't just a mere teacher. She is an example, an educator, instructor, mentor, professor, tutor, pedagogue, coach, a true docent. Mrs. Terman, you are the one who made most of us realize that we can become whatever we wish. For your words to this day echo in my brain, where there is a will, there is a way. Yet I do fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness. You are the personification of human kindness. None of us will ever forget how you used to help us study for all our exams, be it science or history. You gave us lessons on the conquering and taking over of Constantinople, and even helped us understand a bit about molar mass, and that glass is a liquid, not a solid as is a crystal. We grew so much with you. We were able to learn, practically by osmosis, that knowledge is never too much. And yet, even with a privileged brain that ticks 1,000 miles an hour, you were always kind and as patient as can be. You have a heart of gold. Mrs. Terman, do you remember the day you made the entire class cry with you? You had lost your small dog, couldn't find him anywhere, and your desperation moved us all. And then the next day, second period class, you made us all laugh, telling us that the doggy was stuck in your cupboard, and you had only realized that when you got home. Poor thing. I'm glad I was your pupil and not your dog. But today my heart wants to cry again, because although there is a whole new tomorrow ahead, at this moment, this is a goodbye. From Macbeth. When shall we meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won. Mrs. Terman, your battle has been won, and the victorious are none the less than all those young souls that you helped lapidate. Thank you, on behalf of all of us who have learned from you such valuable lessons in life. And if Shakespeare had had the fine opportunity to meet you, he would never have written this line for Hamlet to say, "It's horrible, frailty, thy name is woman." You're far from it. You are a fighter. And in fact, had he known you at the time, he would have written, "Courage and perseverance, thy name is Maria Eugenia." Maria Eugenia Terman, you are an alicerce, I have to use that word in Portuguese stronger. You are an alicerce of the school, and I am proud to have attended your lessons, to have been your teacher's aide, and really lucky to have been your teacher's pet, much against the jealousy of others in my class and other grades. My dearest Terman, without a shadow of doubt, you will always be present in our memory, and your name and teachings will be everlasting in the halls of this school. You're now retiring, This is a great loss for all those children that have not yet had the chance to learn from you all the precious lessons you have to offer. A well-deserved rest. So I came up with this poem. Actually, it's more of a limerick than anything else, and I entitled it A Scholar's Greeting. Sound drums and trumpets far and near. Let all students and graduates loudly cheer, and show by our actions that we revere, because she's served chapel school 20 long year. We'd like to say the kindly things that we so oft have heard, and feel that we could rouse your soul the way that ours you've stirred. We're wishing at this graduation time that we could but repay a portion of the gladness that you've strewn along your way. We often wonder how it would be to not have a teacher as special as she. She's kind and caring, gentle and sweet. She dealt with teens. That's some feat. We have this feeling, and it's not so new. Did I mention she's very loving too? She's changed our life with love and compassion, teaching with patience and wisdom and passion. We'd like to thank these teachers of ours, but can we do this in less than 2 hours? She loves her scholars, she knows them well. She's had so many, couldn't even wonder or tell. Even if one did not want to be a scholar, or a scholar dare, she still taught with love and care. We sometimes wonder how it would be if we had not had a teacher as special as she. Would we be special? Would we have learned? She gave us something for which we've yearned. And I received several emails from all over the world sent by alumni of several years. Unfortunately, I cannot read them all, but I must mention that everybody refers to this above all. To thine own self be true. And there's some other interesting comments, and I bet you she's carried on throughout the years saying these same things. Like, for example, Jean-Philippe remembered that during exams, she used to turn around to everybody and say, "Do I have to be a policeman?" And Joyce Disco, first thing that came to her mind was her class at the end of the corridor, and always carrying that handbag of hers wherever she went. And Peter Ting, a little schizophrenic act right now. So imagine this in the classroom. Mrs. Termat, Mrs. Termat. Yes, Peter. Can I go to the bathroom? Yes, you can. Of course you can, but you may not. Was that a yes or a no? Ellery Van remembered that Mrs. Termat was always comparing poems to being like music, melody, beat. And Diana Schuster remembered two quite funny things. Always with our late homeworks, we'd hear something like, "Tomorrow or never." But the lucky thing is that the never was never enforced. And at least when we were at school, is your classroom still there? Same. So, you know those windows? Well, even in winter, they had to be open. According to Mrs. Termat, it was better for us to think. And last but not least, I would like to say just one last thing to you. Although you always said that silence is golden, and you can all imagine what a chatterbox I was, so those words of her are well engraved down to my bones. I would like to show you that sometimes silence must be broken. Please, let's all break the sounds of silence with a round of roaring applause for this wonderful role model, Mrs. Termat. Thank you.
Lorraine May, by the way. The highlight of the evening, the presentation of the diplomas. I would like to introduce the following people who have the great fortune to greet each new graduate and deliver the diplomas. Mrs. Ingrid Freitas, Guidance Counselor. Mr. Gerald Gates, Superintendent. Mr. John Chilello, High School Principal. And Ms. Lizechi Morostica, Brazilian Program Director.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I will introduce our graduates. Will the first row please rise? Silvia Cristina Lima Rocha Loma. Cristiane Maria Alon. Juliana Bento Pascoal. Ricardo Luiz Sudré Vaz. Heloísa Cheng. Yona Chen. Tiago Scalise Cursino. Karuna Lakshmi Randazwani. Mariana Quios do Amaral. Mark Frederick Ross. Raquel Helen Vieira da Silva. Eliana Yan San Juan. Pedro Lamarck Lois. Salina Júlio. second row, please rise. Jennifer Elena Alcaraz. Marcos Azulay Melo Amaral. Witke Claudia Schütte. Andrea Paola De Lia. Daniel Aldrin. Sabrina Montagnana Zorati. Priscila Pedroso Nasralla. Eduardo Galvão Teixeira. Diana Angelis Ouro. Débora Vaz Garcia Lopes. Thomas Long. Laura Eurício. Nina Kirsten Dahl. André do Amaral Alta. Will the third row please rise? Ross. Lívia de Abreu Lewandowski. Diego de Macedo Higgins. Carolina Diniz Niemeyer. Marco José Cunha Pinto. Olivia Lobo Goulart. Rodrigo Meireles. Natália Biagi Lima. Cecília Littmann. Daniel Chen. Stephanie Siren Mofini. Tiago Álvares de Mello. Mariana Guedes Conde. José Juan Zaduono. You may be seated.